Feodor, welcome back to Talk Python to me. Awesome to have you here.
Hi, Michael, and hi, fellow Python developers.
Yeah, it's real good to have you here. I know that there was a lot of excitement about Flet. In fact, I got a message just a couple of weeks ago from somebody saying, "Is Flet what you used to write your mobile apps?" And I'm like, no, because that was a while ago. And I kind of wish that was an option, but it wasn't an option for us at the time. Anyway, I think Flutter is going strong. I think there's a lot of excitement around it. And certainly there's an excitement for building mobile applications in Python.
Sure, yeah, Flutter is getting stronger and stronger. You know that, like recently, I saw there was an attempt to fork Flutter. Because like there was a feeling in the community that it's not moving anywhere. But I don't believe that. Even that guy mentioned that. There are like 50 developers working on Flutter right now at Google. So yeah, Flutter is getting better and better, and their release cycle is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I
Sometimes it's really hard to catch up, but
I, I know that can actually be a problem. I just updated Flutter on my
well,
Mac Mini, and
oh
I
gosh,
I had out of date Cocoa Pods and Ruby, and there's a whole tool chain that people need to know about. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the tool chain. But yeah, you're constantly chasing versions and releases and updates, and then you've got Android Studio versions, you've got Xcode. There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
We recently started using Flutter version manager (FVM), and it's pretty good. Yeah, because they're updating so fast. It's really hard to catch up.
yeah, it sure is. All right, we'll talk about that in just a second, but maybe a quick introduction. It has been, I guess it's worth giving a shout out. Back in summer 2022, you were on the show when Flutter first came out to tell everyone about, when Flet first came out to tell everyone about Flet and how it's basically Flutter plus Python for UI. But it's been a while, so tell people quickly who you are, and then we can get into the project.
Sure. My name is Feodor Fitsner, and I'm the founder and developer of Flat Framework, like Flutter for Python for Flutter. Um, yeah, it's been 2.5 years since we released the first version. It's not like the first version, but the first release of Flat. And since that time, we gained really great traction. Um, to my mind, like we got 12,000 stars on GitHub, 70 contributors, 5K members on Discord channel, and like I found the statistics for PyPy. It's like almost 3 million downloads from PyPy of Flat package. So it's pretty great. It's a great community, great people, a lot of feedback, a lot of issues. So it's pretty nice. So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, and it definitely seems like it's going strong. I do think maybe it's worth actually talking a bit about what Flutter is before we dive into Python for Flutter with Flet, right?
hmm
Give people a quick
so
sense of what is this Flutter thing that we're talking about.
sure, yeah, yeah. So Flutter is a cross-platform framework. It works for web, iOS, Android, and all desktop platforms. It allows you to write nice apps, really nice apps with great UI in dark language. So you have to learn a new language. And Flutter is a framework. So it's like it's not just UI; it's application framework. It has all the things to build the app and publish the app. So like it's um,
Yeah, there's the language, which is Dart, not Flutter. But then Flutter has all the UI widgets and the mechanisms, but it also is a whole series of build tools that will take that and create things that you can upload to the mobile app stores like Apple's App Store or Google Play or other places, right? Like desktop apps. So there's a bunch of layers to what Flutter really is, I think.
Yeah, and also the interesting part about Flutter is that it has like painted UI. So it started from the Skier engine, and now they have their own engine impeller. So the UI is basically like painted on the canvas. Uh, so it looks similar everywhere on every device. Like some frameworks, like for example, React Native, they use native controls, like in loop, like but but Flutter it looks similar on everywhere on every device.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the nice thing.
The thing that's nice, it's cool that it runs everywhere, but sometimes that can fall short. The biggest example of this for me is Java applications. When they have their own file browsing dialog, you're like, oh, this is not, this is clearly not a native sort of thing going on here, on a desktop situation. They don't look like Windows dialogues. They don't look like Mac OS dialogues. They just look like Java dialogues. But so that can be a problem or a limitation. But Flutter tries to look like the native controls, right? And there's the what do they call them? The Cupertino widgets and the material design widgets so it tries to adapt to the platforms it's on.
Yeah, that's why it's called adaptive. Yeah. So it's like this material design is built in. There is Cupertino controls. And also, I thought there are third-party packages for macOS and Windows, like Fluent Design. By the way, about dialogue, if this, it's called File Picker, and it looks different for all platforms. So it's not always drawn like the UI. You can write like a native package, like using the underlying operating system API. So the dialog looks pretty standard on macOS or Windows. So it's not always so bad.
No, it's good. And it is for building apps all over the place, Flutter, but I would say its real traction seems to be in the mobile app space, right? What do you think? Primarily iOS and Android?
Yeah, someone recently asked me about like why not React Native? So why you chose? And I went to Google, typing like Flutter DS React Native, and interesting, uh, it became more popular this year, 2024. It's a little bit ahead of React Native Flutter in this year.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So it's according to Stack Overflow questionnaire or something like that. So yeah, it's gaining popularity, and I would say that yes, Flutter is more mobile first framework. Despite they have awesome support for desktop platforms, for web, um, it's still mobile first. And when we talk about Flutter, we should probably talk first about mobile devices. Yeah, and these benefits it brings to mobile development. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting. I just looked on Stack Overflow trends. Let's see if I can find it. And yeah, look at that. The Flutter is quite a bit higher than React Native. More than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So
I'll put a link to that in the show notes for the Stack Overflow
what are the
trends
reasons?
graph.
Yeah, still, what are the reasons behind that? It's
Yeah.
Maybe it's ecosystem. Maybe because it's pretty easy to find an extension to find like some nice package on pub.dev, you know.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because it looks nice on both iOS and Android, and it looks similar. Maybe because Dart itself. I know people tend to criticize Dart, but I have some experience writing in JavaScript, TypeScript, and that I can say that it was really nice learning Dart, and
Hmm.
it's a great language. And honestly, I know it's unpopular, but I feel it's kind of like better, than JavaScript. It's just my opinion. So once you learn it, you can do everything. It's pretty nice. Maybe because of that.
Yeah, yeah, perhaps. And before we move off Flutter, just real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to Lauren, the developer I worked with. He and I built the TalkPython courses apps in Flutter, which is why I have more than
Hmm.
just like reading the docs experience in it. And those apps are going strong today. They're really great. Although I'm about to release a new version because you never stop releasing new versions, even if you think you're done. Something
Hmm.
changes behind the scenes with iOS or Android. This time it's Android.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're like, oh,
all the
that
time.
that package that used to do this thing, it doesn't do it anymore. Like, oh no.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's the foundation. That's Flutter.
Hmm.
Flet. Tell us about Flet. I mean, you talked about the downloads, but like, where does it fit in this Flutter ecosystem?
So, um, well, it's not. Flat is a open native framework. It's not just as you can think. It's not just a translated to from Python to Dart. It's not just bindings for Flutter widgets like PyQt PySite, for example,
Hmm.
but it's a standalone framework that uses Flutter for its UI. So Flat is an application framework. It's not just UI, and it
Yeah,
uses Flutter to build its UI. Yeah,
I see. So people should think of it more as an independent UI and application framework for Python, not so much as a extension of Flutter into the Python world. Is that maybe the way to think
right,
of it?
right. We're still trying to go away from this label. It's kind of, but it works really nice. Like write Flutter apps in Python. It it works pretty good, like in terms of CEO, for example.
Hmm.
But it's not true. Like it's a framework that uses. We could like I mean potentially we could replace it with something else like this backend, with like Compose or React Native, but no, it's Flutter, and it's really great. We have our own controls, and it's not always one-to-one mating, but it's like many of Flat controls. They are built out of like multiple Flutter widgets. So we combine multiple Flutter widgets into controls. Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
because sometimes if you have some Flutter experience, sometimes you can notice that it's getting really the UI getting really uh, complex, or like layered, like a lot of um, controls like wrapped into other like widgets wrapped into other widgets. Like for example, if you want to center something, there is a center widget. If you want to limit the size, there is size box. So Flat combines many widgets into more like controls, and those are properties. So it's like it's Flutter in served to Python developers in Pythonic way, I would say.
Okay. Nice. And on your, if people want to browse these controls widgets, what do you want to call them? There's a whole controls section in your docs. And I'll link to the docs, but just on the left it says controls. And you go there, there's layout controls, navigation controls, app bar type things that you might expect from standard mobile apps. And of course, like I sort of pointed out, you got the Cupertino versions and you've got the non-Cupertino material design versions. So people can have a look at that and just get a sense for all the controls. But there are many. How many controls do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, it's like 100 plus, I would say.
Yeah. And some really nice ones, right? Like you've got a web view, you've got maps, animations, charts, quite a bit.
Web view is not available for all platforms at the moment. It's mostly for mobile and for macOS, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of like there is a Flutter limitation right now that for Windows that doesn't allow to have a proper web view on Windows platform, for example.
Oh yes, I remember that. That's
yeah.
Yeah, what a hassle.
But yeah, there is work going on.
Yeah. So you were on the show before to talk about Flet, and those were pretty early days then, right? To over 2 years ago. A lot.
Sure.
You're going strong, like you said. You talked about the downloads and the contributors and stars and all that. That's awesome. So, what have you all been up to? Where's this effort gone? Like, what progress have you made?
So, we started from pretty simple design. It was pre-built executable for every platform. Mostly like for desktop platform, which is able to display all controls we have, and that executable was and is part of a Flet wheel you install. So if you do pip install Flet, you install this executable with the Python API itself. But then we started getting more and more requests, like asking, like, how would I put all this beautiful stuff to a mobile device, or how do I do a standalone app? And the answer is we should generate executable, and Python should be part of it. Python, your program, third-party libraries you use for your program, all this stuff should be part of this executable. So we started, it's been a lot of work to produce standalone package for desktop, for web, and for mobile. So Flutter is a good start for that. So the question was Python itself and third-party packages. So we decided that, Python for desktop platform, it's pretty straightforward. You just take regular Python and bundle it into your executable or application bundle, and that's it. So it's pretty straightforward. For mobile devices, there is a challenge, and we know that multiple projects are working on this problem. Like the most popular, Kylie and Beware, those guys started solving this problem back in 2010, maybe 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And they did really great job, and they're still doing great, So
yeah, I know Beware's got a lot of recent support as well through the Anaconda team, which is really great.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. So we'll get back to beware podcast, yeah, like,
Okay.
but so we started from Kavi. I don't know, at that point, like 2 years ago, I uh, I thought that I saw maybe that Kavi is more popular, and I decided to explore like this way whether Kavi could be used as a foundation for Flet, or we can grab portions of Kavi and make something different, you know. And it was a good for the start, obviously, and we managed to use Kali tooling like Python for Android, Python for iOS, and their command line and their libraries and their recipes to compile runtime, Python runtime, and third-party modules, and use them in Flutter application. So there was Kali, you know, and
Well, you
but
guys ended up moving off of it, right?
yes. So recipes was a great, and it's still a great idea, but there were limitations. Like first of all, um, Clivey recipes. Some of those recipes they're pretty outdated. Um, so I tried building a few recipes. So I forked Clivey and tried building um, new recipes by myself, and it wasn't easy task. It's kind of, so recipes are in, like, it's basically a Python code, and there are a lot of historic stuff. It's you should know about, like, a lot of debugging. So I was really struggling trying to build new recipes and update existing recipes in for Kali, and also the biggest issue with Kali's approach was, so you have to build all all the Python runtime and all the modules, like packages, by yourself all the
Oh,
time. Like, if you're a
yeah.
user, yeah, it's kind of pain. So you should have Android SDK installed and all environment variables in place. Like, I mean, it could be a real struggle to build, and it takes time. Sometimes, like, if you add NumPy pandas to your app as a dependencies, it could take like half an hour to build all the packages. And fingers crossed, like, whether it finishes okay, or you get some weird pretty error. So
Yeah.
it wasn't nice. It wasn't nice. I mean, it worked. This approach worked for simple things, with where your app requires pure Python packages. But if it's not something trivial, it's either no recipe or outdated recipe, or you have to build your own recipe, etc., etc. So
And a
yeah, that
recipe is
was,
basically saying how to build some particular library or Python itself for Android or for iOS or something. Is that right?
yeah. We can
Okay.
we can dig into that. Yeah, but it's kind of basically like settings. It's a bunch of settings for compiler, for linker, and how to move resulting files, around. And
Yeah,
basically
that
that's
doesn't
it.
sound
Yeah.
that easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's C, C++. Yeah. I can talk about this later. It's
Yeah, yeah. No, it's probably people get enough of an idea from it. Is this? So I know that you were using or you published serious Python. Is this sort of your answer to that?
Yeah. So as we do open source and Kali and other, like, projects are open source, I thought maybe it's a good idea to contribute something to open source, right? I mean, we can do this as a part of our application template, for example, and not dealing with this plugin, but I thought maybe someone else would be interested in using Python with your Flutter app. So Serious Python is pretty low-level package that allows you to embed Python engine into your Flutter application. So I'm not sure if it's even popular, but maybe someone can use it for some purposes.
Yeah, it's nice. Do you do anything with Python build standalone? UV has started making it really easy to install Python, all the different platforms of it by leveraging Python build standalone that was previously run by Greg, now by Astral.
Yes, I
Or
use
do you do
Python.
something else? Yeah, like where you build
So
it
you're
for
talking about this
platforms.
GitHub project building every version of Python for
Yeah,
all platforms, right?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we use this repository for desktop. So
Okay,
yeah, we use this repository for desktop as a starting point, and we download pre-built Python from that repo, and we actually repackaged it. So
nice.
for mobile, now we use a different approach, and I can talk about this. For web we use Feodor.
Right. Yeah, well, let's maybe talk for a little bit about the runtime side of things, and we could talk about packaging after that. So,
Sure.
Flutter goes into all different places, more than
Yep.
most platforms. You can build desktop apps, you can build mobile apps, you can also build web apps, kind of a competitor to Angular or something like that, right? And if you're going to have Python runtimes in these different locations, and that's kind of why I was asking about Python build standalone is, there's all these variations of places it could be, which is quite tricky, right?
hmm
So the web version is WASM, WebAssembly based, right?
Yep. So yes, right now, Flat web app could be deployed in two modes, in two states, like client side and server side. So if it's deployed as a server side app, obviously the Flutter part runs in the browser, and Python runs in the server, and it's standard Python with any module. You can use anything. And client client side uh, talks to server by WebSockets. So all UI changes are streamed via WebSockets to a client, and all events go back to server side. So this is one mode. It's called server side, and another mode is client side or static web side. You can publish Flat app as a static website and put it on Cloudflare or GitHub pages or whatever you like.
Nice. Yeah, you
So
just put the WebAssembly files there, and it just picks it up and goes, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's Flutter itself and Python Pyodine, which is WebAssembly, which is Python in WebAssembly. So we don't compile Flat Flutter part into WebAssembly yet because we have a lot of dependencies and not all of them support WASM, but it's definitely on our roadmap, and we have a branch trying to produce WASM builds. So it would be really nice because the size would be much smaller. The size of a Flutter web would be much slower. It's probably like right now it's 10 megabytes maybe, and it's gonna be like 2 megabytes something. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be really nice when we do that.
Yeah. That'd be
Mhm.
great. And with the right amount of caching, the right style of caching, you know, it's not
Absolutely,
that
yeah,
big of a deal, right?
yeah, yeah. And yeah, PyDiet is pretty strong project. It's it has the biggest number of packages supported, so it's great. I mean, like it got really great support.
Yeah. I believe that the Python core devs are also working on getting Python itself
Hmm.
to be a sort of officially built for WebAssembly. I know Brett Cannon's done a ton of work for this as well. Does that help you guys in any way?
Absolutely, yeah. It's actually right now we use built-in this built-in Python support. So we migrated from Kivy to this approach, and it's thanks to BWare guys, Russell and Malcolm. So Russell is iOS, Malcolm is Android. So they did a really great job putting like this iOS and Android support into Python project itself. Um, and now they like actually they uh, they implemented this support for Python 3.13 and backported to lower versions. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, absolutely. It's like when I first saw the proposal. It's for iOS first of all. Uh, I really liked it. It's really great. I mean, like the way producing um, binary libraries, like for and packaging them, it's really good because we can use dynamic libraries versus static libraries in Kali. Like in Kali, everything like all these third-party modules, uh, you compile your machine every time they produce static libraries, basically like .a files for iOS.
Okay.
And they like the entire code base is like it's a single executable at the end. Like everything, like NumPy, like all this stuff is a single file. I mean, and you cannot reuse some of those libraries. Like when you package them into iOS app. So yeah, when I saw, I really loved the approach, and I I understood, that it's probably the way going forward, and you see, it's kind of like it's getting like a standard right now, and this approach allows you to have um, binary wheels that are pre-built and put somewhere on not on PyPy.org yet. They don't support this model tags yet, but you can publish them on a custom feed, and all your users, they can download them from that location. That's it,
Yeah.
without
That's
ever
cool.
building. Yeah, so it's great. It's standard, and in the future we can use pre-built wheels by like project maintainers. Like if NumPy, for example, decide releasing those wheels, we can use them because we follow these PEP standards. Like so we
Okay.
use like standard runtime.
Excellent. And the NumPy folks, for example, as you said, they could use their expertise to get NumPy C code and Python code to build for WebAssembly and just put that in as automation in GitHub, and everyone else in the world doesn't have to solve it over and over, right?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, the Python 3.13 Python itself is uh, is pretty fresh. You know, it's many packages are still on like don't support it, right? So I believe like in at some point those projects will start producing their own iOS and Android wheels and publishing them to PyPy once it's supported. So yeah, and of course they can reuse our expertise. Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me dream, dream big. You know, like wheels for iOS and wheels for Android. Could you imagine a day where it's as easy to just get libraries for the mobile
Well,
platforms as it is
it's
for Mac or Linux or whatever?
yeah, it's still, you know, I can tell it's still not many people working in this area, and uh, what I can tell you, it's like modern processors, modern CPUs in Android and iOS, Apple devices, they're pretty powerful, you know. And I remember there were a lot of like at those times, like 2012, 2010, when Kylie and Beware started, there were a lot of issues trying to squeeze this desktop C code into a mobile processor.
Yeah.
Now it's much easier. Most of those packages could be compiled as is without any tricks, without any patches, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, so it's pretty nice. Maybe yeah, in the future we will have this as a standard thing, you know.
Yeah. Last PyCon or the maybe the Python before started. I think it was Salt Lake. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Recently, Carol Willing at the PyCon US keynote talked about how mobile is such an important platform, and there's people
It
like
is.
you and Russell Keith McGee and the Beware team working on it, but I think it feels a little chicken and an egg to me. You know, if it was a little easier, I think there would be a huge bunch of people that jump into it. But it's like it takes projects like Flet and the Beware one to just kind of unlock it, and then I think once it gets unlocked, people are gonna realize and just go for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's having Python on the mobile device is pretty awesome. You know, it's like for Android, for example, it adds maybe like 8 megabytes of size to your app. So it's not so large. And it makes sense. Python is a great language. It's great for beginners, you know, for scientists. So it's really um, I don't know, like addictive, you know, like to write apps for everything in Python. I become like I've been using Python for 3 years already, and I still love it. You know, like I write most of my like even like scripts, you know, like in Python. Like so,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
looking back. You know,
I've worked in a lot of programming languages myself, static and dynamic ones, and yeah, it's Python is comfortable.
Mhm.
It's nice. Yeah. All right, I want to talk about packaging, and I know that's the area that you've been working on a lot as well. And as a segue, let's take a question from the audience. Alan out there asks, I'm someone taking a careful look at Flet. My question is, what is the process of getting a finished app reviewed by Apple or Google? I think, let me rephrase that into a slightly different part, because the reviewed by Apple or Google, there's like a voodoo doll and you stick it with a few pins and then you like rub it with an oil and then they approve your app, right? Like that seems to be the process. It's been so hard. But
Yeah.
I think the thing is, how do you get it built in a way that you can submit it to the App Store? And then it's just down to, right? So what's the process?
So this is one of those rough questions. It's it's and you should have a list of rough questions you're ready to answer. So right now you can build APK for AAB for Android. You can sign it, but you have to upload the file manually right now into.
I see.
Like,
so you have to sideload it basically at the moment.
Yeah. So I mean,
Okay.
like you produce. So Flet build command allows you to build an AAB file, which is basically APK for multiple platforms. Sign it, and then you upload it by yourself through the web interface of Google Play.
Oh, let me go back then. Then that's not side loading it. That's just not having it auto upload.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. That's encouraging.
So for our so we have our own Flet app in both Google Play and App Store. It's for testing apps on mobile devices. It basically like the same Flet client that connects to app through WebSockets, and the app itself is running on your machine. So yeah, and honestly, right now we publish it with Fastlane. So there is a CI job that publishes both iOS and Android versions with Fastlane. I'm not sure. Maybe we will do the instructions how to use Fastlane, because it's a great tool, and it's pretty easy to synchronize certificates, for App Store, and publish your app, and meta information for app. So yeah, but right now you can build IPA, you can build AAB, but you have to upload them manually.
I think that's fine.
And then the review process starts. But
that's the voodoo doll part, where you get the voodoo doll out and you hit it with the needles.
Yeah, but I can tell you, people usually concerned about like, is it allowed to have Python like stuff like that in your app, and would it be approved by Apple, by Google? And I can tell you, it works pretty well. We dog food our own stuff, so we build Flet app using Flet. So the way it's packaged inside, it's getting approved. There are some issues. I can tell you there are some issues. For example, disable. We use to disable x86 devices right away, and because they're like Google Play virtual machines, they show just like a black screen, and like the market share for those devices is pretty small right now. So we disabled that. So to pass the review.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Nice, awesome. Okay, I want to talk through the publishing workflow that you all have with the new CLI tools you got, but let's dive into one more thing real quick. So when I have my Python code running, let's just say iOS, I have my Python code running on an iPhone. What does the runtime look like? Is that regular C Python? Can I add a standard package as a wheel? Like, could I use HTTPX? Like, what is the story around the execution environment and the external packages and so on?
So, well, yeah, it's C Python, and as I said, right now we use or this serious Python package. It uses Python that is built by those scripts which are part of Python 3.13. So, like, theoretically, if you go there to Python repository and look into those folders, you will see instructions. You can follow those instructions and build runtime, like build C Python for both iOS and Android. But yes, this is it's not WASM. It's C Python compiled into native iOS or Android code, for platform, not like code assembler. And binary packages, yes, you have to repackage. You have to build binary packages targeting those platforms as well. And for that purposes, we use Model Forge project by Beware. It's pretty nice. It's an awesome project. It's a brainchild of Malcolm and Russell, and yeah, and so it uses in its turn it uses cross-env package, which is basically the way to simulate. Um, it allows you to create virtual environment in Python things that it's being run on a mobile device, so it's
I
like
see.
basically Model Forge is like you do pip install something, and it feels like for Python it feels like it's being run this command on a mobile device, and it uses like if it's binary package and there is setup.py or PyProject toml, it uses mobile compilers, cross compilers to build .so file and produce
I
will.
see. So if a pip install action requires a local build of something, it will use the mobile compilers with the target platform being like iPhone or whatever.
Right. So it's like
Okay.
the whole package, like this cross-env, it tricks Python into thinking it's kind of like running on a mobile device, like, and it has these compilers, this archiver, this linker, etc. So like, and it's pretty smart thing,
Yeah.
like in most cases. So you should do a recipe, but this time recipe is basically a YAML file. It's kind of like meta.yaml. And in most cases, if it's standard C, if it's simple package, you don't have to do anything. It works right away. You can build it for Android. You can build it for iOS. It takes literally minutes to produce a binary wheel for both platforms.
Wow. Okay. That's
So
fantastic. Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. I'll definitely link that in the show notes. All right. Back to wherever I put it, the publishing side of things. So maybe we could talk through a little bit about the CLI and the process. Maybe tell us how we go through this to get something built here.
So the first releases of Flet were using the like so-called web, like offering Flatpak command and using PyInstaller to produce executable, but it worked for desktop platforms as well, only. And to produce the package, like the bundle for mobile platform, it's you need to do more. It's it's still possible, as those guys are basically zip files inside. You can build AAB, you can build APK, you can build IPA by yourself or using Xcode tools, and it's the approach Beware takes, for example. So their briefcase, it builds like packages basically from scratch, But for Flutter, we require to use Flutter SDK. So there is a new command, flat build, which uses Flutter SDK, and it's basically like a wrapper around the Flutter build command, which allows you to build the app for desktop, for web, for mobile. So inside we take a template, we take template, and we create a new Flutter app, and we build this Flutter app.
Right, and just for people listening, the template looks something like, here's a folder with a bunch of images, and here's a main.py and a pyproject.toml, stuff that Python people would be familiar with.
Yeah, so this is template for the app, and template for Flutter app, it's something internal. You don't have to look into that, it's like, but
Yeah, it gets kind of complicated for the different platforms and linking them together and stuff.
the problem with this, with Flutter is like the difference, because we wanna support extensions. We wanna allow people using those nice extensions packages on pub.dev. So we cannot have the same process every time. We should really run Flutter build to, like, for example, include media kit for video control, or audio players package for audio control. So it's not the same. It's always so it should be built from Dart to this code Flutter produces.
Yeah, that's a lot of what Flutter is. It's like orchestrating all the pieces to build into the right stuff to go into the mobile apps. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this pyproject.toml, and you even have a create CLI command like flet create my app or whatever, and it will go and get that all out there, right? So really nice.
Yeah, it's all recent stuff and still pretty rough, but it's great.
Yeah, and here you have Flet build and then target platform. And where a target platform is APK, that is Android, AAB IPA, which is iOS, web, macOS, Windows, and Linux. That's a pretty impressive list of package destinations for building an executable. So if I build, let's suppose this. If I build say Windows. If I say target equals Windows, what file or executable, or what do I get when I run that? Do I get just a .exe? Do I get a .exe with DLLs or a whole bunch of other stuff?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a single .exe, but it's exe and bunch of DLLs. Yes, it's if you look inside that folder, you'll see like this executable, then Python itself, Python runtime, which is a bunch of leak files, and DLLs, Python files themselves. Then your app coming as a zip file. So and also different kind of DLLs from plugins, from extension packages, Flutter packages. Like for video, for example, it's going to be like 4 more DLLs, something. So
Sure.
yeah, it's a bunch of things. Yeah, but yeah.
But it's something I could put into an installer or copy to a Windows machine, and then create a shortcut to the .exe, and it looks like an app to the user.
Yeah, you can make self-extracting archive or MSI. So,
yeah, exactly. Okay, and for Mac OS?
For Mac OS, it's a bundle. It's
is it a .app bundle?
.app, yeah, but it's a standard bundle that looks like a file, but it's a folder. So works like a charm. Like having right structure. Again, the app inside is part of Flutter asset, which is like it's called like car file. It's not like even a zip. It's car file, and which has all the assets.
Nice.
But again, it's a work in progress.
Are you ready for the hard question now? Those are all awesome answers, but here's the one that has been driving me crazy. Is so many of these platforms, by that I mean Windows and Mac, have anti-malware, anti-phishing protections, which is good, but that means if you build a a .app file and just try to run it, it'll say this is from an untrusted developer. We'll probably, you want to move it to the trash. You know what I mean? Like the lack of notarization, or on Windows, if it's not digitally signed with a trusted certificate, it gets treated with like a yellow warning. Is there a way to digitally sign these or notarize them through Apple?
So yeah, it's
I know Flutter can do it, so maybe you could maybe it shells down to the Flutter side of how that
Flutter can
works.
do it, but still it looks pretty complicated. You know, like
Oh yeah.
even from my perspective, like it looks pretty creepy. But I have this item on my desk right now to start from macOS, because there was a complaint from one user recently, like 2 days ago, and I still had this issue. So I'm gonna work on that, and I'm gonna provide like definitive answer. It's not like I'm not gonna say like it's do whatever you like. Like no, I'm gonna go through all the steps, because right now we honestly we don't even use sandbox mode in produced .app file. You know, it's so we start from there, and there was an issue with loading Python binaries, like not Python, like package binaries. I'm gonna solve that problem as well. So yeah, definitely, it's our next step. Yeah, we as you see, we're getting closer and closer to building real apps, and we're getting more and more developers building real apps, and they want to publish them. It's not just um, experimental, anymore. Like they want to publish them, and we are working on that right now, like publishing.
Awesome. Yeah,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
our number one priority for the next year. You know.
I tell you, if you had that dialed, I mean, that means that opens up desktop apps completely,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. So I will start from macOS, uh, because I have probably a little bit more experience with macOS right now, and then I want to continue with the Windows Store. I never published anything to Windows Store before, so it's going to be uh, an interesting journey, but
Yeah.
Windows Store as well.
Well, even if you just digitally signed it, so that if you downloaded it off someone else's website, it wouldn't go, "Oh my gosh, this is an executable that's untrusted. Run away," you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. We actually sign our MSIs right now for other product, and it's kind of like conspiracy, like so you have to use a really expensive certificate
Yeah,
to
I know.
pass through what was like screen Windows screen something like. So it's not just even like code signing, and not even EV code signing
No, it's
certificate,
something
but
else. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
on Mac
So it's
OS,
like
it's Gatekeeper and these sorts of things. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah. I remember it's like $600 per year, something like that, at least, if you want to pass this Windows 11 screen. Yeah.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's always a warning. Always.
yeah, yeah. Where's the Let's Encrypt for desktop apps? Come on, people, somebody help us out.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Where's the cert bot for for desktop apps? But yeah, look, it's there for a reason, because people kept getting wrecked by ransomware and all sorts of stuff. But it does make building desktop apps challenging.
Well, yeah, but we'll get there. No worries.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, what else should we say about this here? I guess controls. I know there was a question. See a video. There was a question out in the audience, also from Alan's, is about camera controls. Is this a thing that you guys support yet?
Sure, we started working on that, but it's it's not like it was kind of like testing the waters, like it's kind of like we At this moment, we are trying to harmonize API, Flet API, and as I see it right now, we're gonna split all controls into like visual controls and so-called services. So camera is gonna be service, because yeah, right now it's sometimes it's kind of messy, like to use non-visual controls, you have to add them like to overlay or something, and like if you jump to a different page, like audio could stop, like.
Yeah.
So we're gonna re-implement that, and camera is number one priority right now. That's why
Nice.
there is a draft pull request, and we're not closing it. So we keep it in mind all the time.
Okay. The reason I even brought that up right now is because part of this packaging process, you have to state things like your permissions that you're requesting, like access to location, and you also have to include which optional controls you want to build, like audio recorder or geolocation or maps and things like that, right?
Yep, and this is something we're gonna change by the next release as well. So we will make this process more streamlined and easier to add new controls or services and include them into build process.
Got it. Well, even having them under a subsection of your PyProject.toml is pretty nice, actually.
Yeah, it looks standard,
Yeah, it looks like it belongs, which is really nice, right? And obviously, you've got icons and splash screens and all of those types of things that you have to include in order to build, especially mobile apps, but even an icon for .app or .exe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess one more thing. We got time for one more thing to call out here about this packaging side of things, or maybe two, but this one's pretty interesting. Is by default, Flet build will just pile your Python app together and assume that it must be fine, but you have a -- compile app option that will compile your Python files. Now, people listening might think, well, but there's no Python compiler. There is a Python compiler. You just don't do anything with it. It's in the interpreter, right? So when Python loads your Python files, it converts it to bytecode and then interprets it, right? But you can have it compile that to PYC files, which will detect problems, right? That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yeah, tell people about that a bit.
One of the reasons we introduced those options is that if you always compile and there are some issues inside user code, the entire process fails. I mean, like even at least one single syntax error somewhere in your app leads to like a failed build process. So we introduced those options, and also you can disable compilation, so it could be easy to debug your app.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
again, it's people asking like, is it like can I see what's going on? Like if I'm like downloaded your app and looked inside, like can I see what's going on inside my app? Like can users see? Well, it's not the way to proper protect your app from someone like from looking into the logic. It's not 100% protection. So maybe you should use obfuscators, and we have some ideas to build obfuscating.
Oh, really?
Into
I was thinking obfuscators were kind of like a separate thing that you just.
But
you
again,
considering okay?
It's a Uncharted. I mean, like it's. Yeah, imagine if it doesn't work. I mean, it's good if it works. Like if you obfuscate it and it works. But Python is pretty complex thing because
Yeah.
it operates by text files, so you can break some paths, and like module names, and whatnot. I'm not sure, if it's even
Yeah, exactly. If it obfuscates the import statement where it said
yeah,
import
yeah,
request, like that's not going to work anymore,
yeah.
because
So
that's how
we
Python
will
works. It
see.
needs to see it. Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to play with.
Interesting.
I want to play with that.
If I compile my Python files, my py files, does that omit them from the project and only include the pyc files, or how does that work?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. We remove .py after that. Yeah.
Okay. That's already pretty good levels of obfuscation. There are
Sure.
disassemblers and decompilers for C code, for especially for .NET and Java. You can get those back to almost source level decompilation
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sort of things. So yeah, that's kind of close to, at least close to. I would say it puts it on par with .NET
Yeah.
level of
That's
obfuscation.
the start. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The last thing I guess we should talk about real quick is just permissions. So if you live in this mobile world, this is Android manifest.xml or info.plist or .entitlements and all these things. And so you support these platform specific deals pretty much because Flutter supports them, right?
hmm So it's it's not like pre-canned permissions. You can put anything you like. It's basically it's whatever you put here into PyProject TOML or command line arguments. It goes directly to this Flat build template. So in fact, the template is a cookie cutter template, and there are a bunch of for each statements, going through all these arrays. So whatever you put here, it goes to those entitlements, plist, and manifest file.
Nice.
So it's pretty flexible, yeah. But sure, we have like some predefined
Cool.
settings.
So when you say it's a cookie cutter thing, it's not just like a template. It literally uses the Python cookie cutter library, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the template. It's in a separate repository. So every flat build command downloads that template and provides the data, combines template and data, and
Yeah, nice.
yeah, and produces this Flutter app, and then it goes to Flutter build.
Cool. It looks great. It looks great. And it also looks like a lot of work. So congratulations on making it
Well,
this far.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's still a
So
lot of work.
yeah. Let's see. I wanted to just have you real quickly close out. I don't know where I stuck it. Somewhere in here. The roadmap for where you're going. So maybe tell us
So yeah,
what's in the
obviously,
future, what's in the near term that people can count on, and then we'll wrap up our show.
sure. Maybe this roadmap is already outdated, but yeah. First of all, we wanna have this 1.0 because it's maybe it's a psychological thing, It's like people, developers feel stability, when there is 1.0, it says that the framework is ready for serious apps. I mean, like,
It's
I don't know.
yeah, it's a commitment to sustainability. Like we think we're
Right,
ready. Yeah.
right. And it's commitment for sustainability, and it's commitment for proper release schedule. So we'll keep this release after releasing it, and we'll be providing patches to this 1.0, etc., etc. So you can start doing real apps using 1.0. So it's 1.0, and we're doing a lot of work trying to harmonize API, trying to remove outdated stuff, trying to have consistent naming conventions across different controls. It's like property names, method names, remove different duplicates. So it's a lot of work, and we're almost there. Um, so definitely, like another thing is improving developer experience, right? So improving developer experience, further improving developer experience. Like, for example, we will be pre-installing all dependencies to make Flet build command work really smooth on your computer. Like right now, you have to install Flutter by itself, but we'll be installing correct version of Flutter on your behalf, and
Oh, that's cool.
Android
Yeah,
SDK.
that's cool.
Yeah, Java it could be a pain, real pain to install. Like setting this Java home,
Yep.
terrible. Then
Feodor, people who have not been through Flutter
sure,
projects, they don't know. They
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know all the little tools and the version mismatches and the I've got this version of Android Studio, but the Android SDK version wasn't checked correctly, and so now I can't. Like that. What you're saying is there's a lot of stuff that you could help out with and make that smoother, but
yeah.
it's challenging.
We
Yeah.
Yeah, and still you need Android Studio or Xcode or Visual Studio. Yeah, you can spend a lot of time configuring those things. You know what? Maybe next year we're gonna start working on a service. Like uh, I call it packaging and publishing service.
Okay.
So
So you could
so
somehow link a GitHub branch, like a production branch or something. If you push to that, you guys grab it and you'll build all the assets.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
Or you can
Okay.
you can push your just your code in this directory to this service and get artifact back. Like
Mm-hmm.
MSI file or APP file. That's
Oh,
it.
that'd be
So
awesome,
it's
actually. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
that's
you
very
don't
cool.
need to deal with all these dependencies, like all this stuff. It's you just do your part, your like Python code, and that's it, and the
I
rest
love
will
it.
be done inside it, yeah, in the cloud. So that's the idea, that's the plan.
Very promising. I love it. And I love all this work, all this progress you guys have made. So thanks for coming back on and sharing with everyone. Let's close it out. Final call to action. People are interested in Flet. What do you tell them?
So go ahead, download the latest version, try doing your app, and join our Discord channel. So, and let us know what you think. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a bunch. See you later.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye.